Greetings, PsychU community. Rachel Self here with Otsuka Neuroscience Medical Affairs. Today, I'm going to be giving you an interview with one of our supporting organizations, the Depression Bipolar Support Alliance, or DBSA. And joining me today is Hannah Zeller, Program Manager for DBSA. Thank you so much, Hannah, for joining us today and giving us a little bit of an insider scoop as to all the things that are happening with DBSA.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Rachel.
So thank you, Hannah, for being our featured speaker for today. I'm pleased to have everyone know that you are joining us. You are Program Manager for DBSA, and you have a long history of clinical training as a Master's in Social Work, which I'm sure comes in very handy for all of the work that you're doing at DBSA. And we're super excited to talk about some of the specific development and creation projects that you've been involved in at DBSA as the program manager today. So we really do appreciate the time. We'd also like to remind everyone that the program today is sponsored by Otsuka Pharmaceutical Development and Commercialization, and Hannah is a compensated speaker for us today. So again, thank you so much for giving us some time today. And if we could start out talking a little bit about the historical context for DBSA. So DBSA was established in 1978 when a group of 6 friends met at a suburban Chicago home. So here we are, 35 years later. DBSA is a thriving organization serving and supporting individuals with lived experience. Could you tell us a little bit more about the organization and the evolution of DBSA?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm so pleased we have Mood Crew on the screen to get to where we've come to. So yeah, what started as a meeting in Rose Curlin's living room in Illinois back in 1978 has grown into over 500 support groups across the country. So through our chapter network, we have chapters and support groups in each state, and our support groups are meant for individuals living with depression bipolar. They are peer run and led, and that peer influence really informs all we do at DBSA. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But as an organization now, 35 years later, our national office, in addition to the work we do with our chapters and support groups, we also have advocacy efforts both on the state and federal level and programming. And we'll get into what that looks like now with the DBSA Mood Crew, and it's part of our new Supporting Youth Mental Health initiative, which we were thrilled to launch at the beginning of 2020.
I'm so excited that we're getting to share this with our community today and gotten a lot of really positive feedback sharing this already with many colleagues. So I'm super excited that we get to talk about this. And it really kind of sets the stage because we're sharing information with you as well as some of our other supporting organizations in an attempt to celebrate May, which, as you know, is Mental Health Awareness Month. So as part of our PsychU series to celebrate Mental Health Awareness Month, we're focusing on mental wellness across the lifespan. So in addition to talking to you at DBSA, we are talking to quite a few other supporting organizations just to let our community know all of the different resources that are available for the very young all the way to older adults. So with that, we have the DBSA Mood Crew here. Can you share a little bit more with respect to this specific youth-focused resource for our community?
Yeah, absolutely. When we started our Supporting Youth Mental Health initiative at the beginning of last year, DBSA had already had some supports for parents and caregivers of children living with mood disorders. We also had our young adult council, but we didn't really have a lot of resources for children and teens. So that's why we created the DBSA Mood Crew. And I love this cast of characters. They are 10 emotion-based characters that are meant to really give children that foundation of support, the beginning of emotional literacy. So through different kind of worksheets and games and activities, we have created a bunch of different resources that are meant to help parents and caregivers talk to their children about emotions. Clinicians and educators can use them as well. So we think that Mood Crew is really kind of the ground floor of emotional literacy, because we know that once kids start aging and they might start to feel symptoms of a mood disorder potentially, they need to have the ability to identify what those feelings are like and be able to talk to a trusted adult about what is going on for them. So we really see this as kind of the ground floor. That's why we started our Supporting Youth Mental Health initiative, by creating this fun cast of characters so kids can begin to learn about emotions.
Thank you. I know it's kind of a tough question. I know we've talked about this before, and I think your answer changes depending on where we are. But can you share with us which one is your favorite?
It's a great question. I love Angry. Angry has a lot of personality. I just love her fierce little stance and her headband. But Lonely has to be probably one of my favorites. Lonely was one of the first designs we received where I was like, wow, this is going to be a really cool and dynamic program. So, but I love all of them.
Yeah, they're all so great. You know what? I go back and forth between calm and happy. I love those. I think they're so cute. I mean, they're all so cute, so it's great. Can you talk to us a little bit more? I know on our next slide, you have a little bit more information provided regarding some of the resources that are available. I know that there's some monthly highlights as well. So we focus on different characters for the month. So over the next couple slides that we have here, could you share a little bit more about that information?
Yeah, absolutely. So last year when we launched Mood Crew, they came out in August of 2020. We came out with the tools and resources you're seeing now here on your screen. So the workbook is, if you want everything Mood Crew, you would just go in and download that on dbsalliance.org/Mood Crew. It has all these different activities. But here we also have, you'll see we have games. In our games, we have both matching moods, which is a super fun matching game, like flip cards, match the character, but it gives an opportunity for a parent or caregiver, a clinician, to begin asking questions to a child. When was a time that you felt that emotion? And so it's a really fun activity that parents and caregivers can facilitate with their kids. We also have our Moods in Motion game, which is really about getting kids to understand what these emotions might feel like in their bodies, because we know how important the mind-body connection is with our emotions. And for kids, they might be feeling it more physically before they're able to kind of intellectually process what that means. So those are our first set of games and activities. We also have these Mood Crew stories, which are these great dialogues between the characters where they're exploring different concepts around emotions. And there are some helpful questions that can be answered at the end as an activity. And then we also have the Days of the Feels, which is our weekly mood tracker. So all the characters are there, and kids can work with their parent and caregiver or their clinician to identify what different feelings they were having throughout the week. So we think that's a great tool to begin to talk about different emotions. And then, of course, we have some fun coloring pages too, which again, I originally, when I was doing clinical work, I worked with kids directly, and I felt like a lot of times to have a good therapeutic session with a child, you needed to have a lot of resources and activity. That's where these come out of, a lot of them. And so, sitting down with a coloring sheet with a kid is a great way to begin a conversation about emotions. So that was our first set of tools and resources. And then if we flip, I think the next slide has some information about the new stuff we're coming out with monthly. Yeah, so each month in DBSA's e-update newsletter, we're going to add an additional resource for each character, and this will kind of get into the character a little bit more in depth. So for January, we released Meditations with Calm, which are super fun YouTube videos that you can play and understand a little bit about meditation and what that feels like. There are 3 different kinds. There's a progressive muscle relaxation, there's a scenic imagery meditation, and then there's also one that's just a basic on deep belly breathing, which we know is important when we're teaching kids about understanding their breath and how that can really be calming and helpful sometimes. So we're excited about those. We had Letters with Lonely come out the following month. Those are different prompts so that you can write a letter along with Lonely. We have a gratitude letter in there. We know how important gratitude is for positive psychology. So, especially kids experiencing COVID right now, we think it's like a fun resource to be used and try to break down the feelings of loneliness we might be experiencing, you know, especially at this time. And then we also have Angry's new resource, which I'm really excited about. That is kind of a cognitive behavioral approach to anger. So through that worksheet, we're walking them through what a triggering situation is and the kind of different responses we might have after. So really excited to continue to create a new resource every month for each character, and those will come out in DBSA's monthly newsletter. So.
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, these are really exciting resources and such a great way to engage kids and develop that vocabulary about their feelings and emotions, as you mentioned. So this is wonderful work. And it doesn't stop there, obviously, with everything that you're doing at DBSA. So I know you're doing quite a bit for young adults and teenagers as well. So I know on the next slide, we have a little bit of information about some of those specific projects and the letter to your younger self. So can you tell us a little bit about Living Proof and some of these teen and young adult directed resources?
Yeah, absolutely. So we are super excited about the launch of our new podcast, which May 1st has arrived. I'm Living Proof, a letter to my younger self is going to be a blog and podcast series wherein young adults will write a letter to their younger self to kind of grapple with what might have been a hard time. You know, when you're a young adult and you're first diagnosed with depression bipolar, or maybe you haven't even been diagnosed yet and you're starting to feel that your mood is varying, it can be very lonely, it can be very isolating and very confusing. So we wanted to create this series so that young adults have the opportunity to reflect on what that experience was like, and also provide themselves that distance, that space. Look at how far I have come since I was originally diagnosed. A lot of times success stories can really be helpful, you know, for the peer community. So that is what we're doing with the I'm Living Proof, a letter to my younger self blog and podcast series. The blog will feature all the letters of the young adults, and then the podcast will have the young adult reading their own letter and then being interviewed so they can discuss experiences of being diagnosed young. And so we really hope that this podcast and blog series will, in particular, reach young adults and teens, especially teens who might be feeling something for the first time. So we're really excited about this. This is championed and supported by the DBSA Young Adult Council, which is a group of peers, individuals who live with depression bipolar who are ages 18 to 30. So a lot of this will be sharing their story and leveraging their good work, which if you're subscribed to the DBSA newsletter, you can also find Young Adult Council resources that they create every single month. So that is our work with teens and young adults right now.
Great, thank you so much for sharing that. And as we kind of extend upon this discussion and talk about other resources that are available across the lifespan, I know it's a bit challenging, it seems, for a lot of organizations to really get at things for older adults. But I know that DBSA is doing some work there. And as we transition through the slides a little bit more, we can talk some about definitely your wellness tracker and your wellness wheel, which really could be implemented across the lifespan, regardless of where you are. You know, what's the work that's going on at DBSA currently, and what are you planning in the future for older adults?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not in our advocacy department, but our advocacy team has been doing some awesome work with seniors that we're really proud of. 2 years ago, we began our Senior Strength Initiative. And this was an initiative to really understand and demonstrate the efficacy of peer support specialists. Now, if you're a part of our audience, you don't know what a peer support specialist is. They are someone who has lived experience. They live with depression, bipolar, PTSD, any mental health condition, and they go through a certification and a training to be a certified peer support specialist, which means they can work in healthcare settings alongside a social worker, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. So we've started these demonstration projects both in California and Louisiana to work with seniors and see if there's efficacy around the value of a peer support specialist working with a senior. So far, we've worked with 100 seniors who have a PHQ-9 score that was in kind of a risky area. So PHQ-9 is a depression measure. So what we found is that when seniors were enrolled in this program, they start working with a peer support specialist. Their PHQ-9 scores after several weeks of working with a peer support specialist were reducing at really impressive rates. So overall, we've seen reduction in PHQ-9 between 30 and 40% for our seniors. So it's a little bit of we're taking two different approaches. A huge priority for DBSA is demonstrating the value of the peer support specialist in the workforce. That's one thing we're accomplishing with this project, but we're also just learning so much about how we can support seniors, which is where these wellness tools really come into play. The DBSA Wellness Tracker is something that has the PHQ-9 depression measure in it. So this is a tool and a resource that these groups have been using. We're also keen to offer online support groups for seniors. So we're really focusing on what their needs are, and we're excited about the results of these demonstration projects we've been working on.
That's very important information. Thank you so much, Hannah. And I know our audience is probably quite familiar with a lot of different measurement-based care tools, including the patient health questionnaire 9-item or the PHQ-9 that you're referencing. And if you are interested in more of those resources, obviously you can check out the wellness tracker on the DBSA website. But if you want a whole host of different types of scales, you can access some of the rating scales on our PsychU website as well under our resources tab.
This is really tools that can be used, I think, anywhere from teen and up. So we created last year, in honor of our Mental Health Awareness Month last year, we created our DBSA Wellness Wheel. So that is our holistic look at wellness. We identified 7 key areas to assess your wellness through. At DBSA, we believe that wellness is not one size fits all. So we created a system that gives the ability to look at wellness from a different perspective, from a strengths-based perspective. So the different areas we identified in our wellness wheel are physical wellness, social, spiritual, emotional, environmental, financial, and occupational. And we have workbooks, worksheets, journal prompts, and different activities. We even have a wellness wheel podcast that you can find on our website. And we really think that these are great tools, for anyone who is experiencing just a hard time finding wellness. And it's what I like about it is it does take that strengths-based perspective. Maybe you're feeling some symptoms of physical health issues. That can be super challenging and debilitating, but it's good to know. Maybe we're in a financial position of strength. Maybe we're in a social position of strength. So we don't think that wellness is just about the absence of infirmary. It's not just about not feeling sick sometimes. It's really a holistic picture. So that's what we get through the wellness wheel. And as I was mentioning earlier, a wellness tracker that has our PHQ-9 assessment in it, but we also have just different measures that people can use. And we really want to meet people where they're at. You can download some of the wellness tracker pages, use all of them. It really depends on what your needs are. But what we like about this tool is you can track your mood, you can track different symptoms you experience throughout the week, you can track different lifestyle measures. How's your sleep? How's your nutrition? How's your physical activity? Did you use substances? So if you use any of these trackers and you use any of the elements together, you can really see kind of a complete picture of what your given month looks like. And we also think this is a super cool tool to work with, to bring to your clinician. So you can have that memory of what happened last month, and it can definitely be useful in that setting. So.
It's a fantastic tool, and especially for those who really like to geek out, you can graph everything and you can really track patterns and use it as a tool to really help that therapeutic alliance, as you mentioned. If you're a clinician suggesting it for your clients, or the client bringing that information up. So it's a really fantastic tool. Thank you for all the work that everybody's been doing there. And I'd like to extend a little bit along the conversation. I know you mentioned earlier peer support and some of the aspects where peer support is incorporated. And obviously peer support has really been receiving an increased focus and appreciation across behavioral health, as well it should. We're starting to really see the importance there. Many organizations have developed peer support systems for those with lived experience, but I really feel as, DBSA is kind of leading the pack, at least, from my perspective, and offers such a wide range of peer support activities across age groups and demographics. Could you share a little bit more about some of the peer support opportunities that are offered by the DBSA chapters?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, our chapters, as we mentioned in the beginning, it all started in the living room of Rose Carlinden, Illinois back in '78, but that has grown into our current 500 support groups across the country. When COVID hit last year, many of our chapters instantly pivoted and were able to offer online support. So, if people are interested in attending a DBSA support group, it's super easy to locate one close to you. On our homepage, there's a finder based on the zip code. But what we also have is we have national online support groups as well. There are some parts of the country where there might not be a local chapter or support group. So we also wanted to make sure we're meeting needs online. So we're continuing to add online support groups. And we, again, as you're referencing, we are really trying to meet different identities and needs. So we have a specific group for young adults. We have specific groups for veterans. We are adding specific support groups for the Black community, specific support groups for seniors. So as we continue to, really understand the value of peer support and the role that these support groups are playing in really helping people, we're continuing to add. We're mindful that people need safe spaces where they can hone in on their particular community, whether that's based on age, race, identity, all these factors. So we're really keen to add even more online support groups. So that's definitely been a recent goal of the organization, and much more of a priority since COVID, as we've all had to meet online all the time.
Absolutely, yeah, I know, and you all have shifted over beautifully to a lot of the virtual support groups, so it's nice to have those options. And everybody can take a look on the DBSA website and try to find a chapter that offers support groups close to them. So we encourage them to do that. So another question for you. We all know that one of the largest barriers to seeking and receiving support for those with lived experience or substance abuse, mental health challenges, etc., is stigma, and all of the stigma that is associated with that. Could you talk a little bit more for our PsychU community about how you and your colleagues at DBSA are working to eradicate stigma?
Yeah, absolutely. And with DBSA being such a peer-focused organization, the peer voice really informs everything we do. So I think that by sharing peer stories, sharing the experiences of peers, we're really trying to just increase everyone's literacy around mental health, everyone's ability to talk about mental health. So that's why we're really excited about the story sharing programs that we've always had at DBSA and continue to generate. We've always had a long-standing column called Life Unlimited that goes out in our newsletter every month, and that's a column where a peer shares how they've lived unlimited by their diagnosis of depression, bipolar, even through facing obstacles. That's why we're starting, again, that launch of that new series that we're so excited about, the I'm Living Proof, a Letter to My Younger Self series, to tell stories. Because really, I think, we're at a place in society where there is a lot more mental health coverage in our news. There's a lot more focus. There's a lot more dialogue around it. So we really want to take this opportunity to share the stories of people who have always been involved in our DBSA community, really make their voices heard. And then for people who are hearing them for the first time, might be experiencing symptoms for the first time, they're hearing something that feels familiar, that normalizes what they might have been experiencing. So I think that's a real big way that we're trying to reduce stigma in our community.
It's so important. We thank you so much for spending a little time with us today and talking about some of the incredible work that you and your colleagues are doing at DBSA. And I'd like to just offer up the final word here for you. As a mental health and advocacy expert, are there any final thoughts that you would like to share with our PsychU community regarding mental wellness across the lifespan, or ways to celebrate May Mental Health Awareness Month?
Yeah, well, I'm really excited that we are, at a place to try to better meet the needs of people across the lifespan. That's why we started our Supporting Youth Mental Health initiative, understanding what mental health looks like in children, teens, and young adults, and providing them the resources and the support that they need from DBSA. We see as foundational to setting the stage for support across the lifespan. So I'm really excited and glad that I get to be a part of the Supporting Youth Mental Health initiative. I think that is super important as we continue to think about the future and the needs that our community will face. I think, when you're offering things for kids to be able to talk about mental health, that's doing a lot. It's also doing a lot to have parents use those resources and be able to begin conversations they maybe didn't grow up with. So, in general, I think a lot of our resources, again, are tying back to that mental health literacy component, trying to create unique resources like the Wellness Wheel, the Wellness Tracker, to meet people where they're at. We want our resources to be flexible, not one size fits all. And so that's why we're really excited about the new resources that we have and the foundation that we've created with Supporting Youth.
Yes, thank you, Hannah. The customization really seems to be key for giving everybody an opportunity to use what works for them, right? So thank you so much. We really do appreciate your time. And we appreciate the audience tuning in for today's interview with Hannah Zeller from DBSA, or the program manager there. Just a reminder to everyone out there that if you are interested, we do have all of our resources available in one spot on the PsychU app, so you can download that and access everything PsychU via your mobile device. So we encourage you to do that. We also have launched a podcast series, so we encourage everyone to join the PsychU Community Podcast. There's a little rumor that maybe, Hannah, you might be appearing as a special guest on one of these upcoming podcasts. So if we can have you. So thank you again so much for your time today. And please check out all of the amazing offerings available through the DBSA website. And that is DBSA Alliance, all one word, .org, if you'd like to check some of those out. Or you can access their website also through the PsychU Supporting Organization section. With that, I just want to thank you again. I want to thank you for everything that you all are doing at DBSA, for being a PsychU supporting organization, and just a wonderful person. We really appreciate that. And we thank our audience for tuning in today. So please stay well, everyone.